Have you heard the not-so-surprising news? The news that yet another not one, but two Fast and Furious movies may be hitting the screen? Well, if you haven't already heard, let's dig into the deets about Vin Diesel seemingly confirming a Fast X Trilogy. So, are you tired of hearing about yet another Fast and Furious movie? Well, you're not alone. Fans everywhere have been expressing their frustration over the announcement of Fast X, the 10th installment of the franchise. And to make matters worse, especially considering Fast X Part 2 will be hitting screens in 2025. Vin Diesel has teased the possibility of a trilogy which has only added fuel to the fire. Fast and Furious has become one of the most successful movie franchises in history, with a total of 10 movies having been released and Fast X Part 2 already well underway. While it's true that the first few movies were a huge hit, fans are starting to feel like enough is enough. Fans have started to feel like there are no plans to put the cash cow down and have been wondering when and if the series will finally come to a close. So, why are fans so upset about yet another movie in the franchise? Well, for starters, it seems like the movies have become more about the action sequences and less about the characters and storyline. While the first few movies were enjoyable because of the strong characters and relationships, the newer movies are more focused on over-the-top stunts and action sequences. Fans are tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. I mean, seriously, how many times can you reinvent a car crash or explosion? Adding insult to injury, Vin Diesel recently teased the possibility of a Fast X trilogy during the premiere of Fast X Part 1. On the red carpet in Rome, Diesel stated, "Without tipping the hat too much, I can say this. Going into making this movie, the studio had asked if this could be a two-parter." He followed up with, "And after the studio saw this Part 1, they said, 'Could you make Fast X, the finale, a trilogy?'" Vin's longtime co-star, Michelle Rodriguez, piped in, agreeing that there are meant to be 3 acts in any story. While some fans may be excited about the possibility of a trilogy, many are left wondering why we need yet another movie. We can't discuss the series without leaning into the indelible mark left on it by Paul Walker, whose role in the Fast and Furious franchise cannot be overstated. He played the character of Brian O'Connor, a former FBI agent turned criminal who becomes a loyal member of Dominic Toretto's crew. Walker's performance was integral to the success of the franchise, and his death in 2013 during the filming of Furious 7 was a huge loss, not only to the Fast and Furious series, but to his fans all around the world. Walker's death was a tragic moment for the franchise and its fans. It also brought to light Walker's own feelings about the series. He himself was getting fed up with the tireless sequels. In an interview, Walker spoke about how he had told director Justin Lin that he wanted his character to be killed off in the series. He was getting tired of playing the same character and wanted to move on to other projects. Unfortunately, Walker's death meant that his character was retired for good from the series, and probably in a much different manner than he had envisioned. Despite Walker's desire to move on, his contribution to the Fast and Furious franchise cannot be ignored. His performance added depth and heart to the series, and his absence has certainly been felt in subsequent films. The franchise has continued on. But for fans, it will always be tinged with the sadness of Walker's passing. So, while Paul Walker's memory lives on in the Fast and Furious franchise, and his tragic death has deeply impacted the series, Vin Diesel has been a driving force in keeping the franchise alive and honoring Walker's legacy. But one has to ask, is the continued push for sequel after sequel to honor a legacy or to continue bringing in cash flow? It's not just fans who are questioning the need for another movie in the franchise. Critics have also been less than impressed with Fast X. Reports flooded in upon the release of the highly hyped-up Fast X Part 1, and the movie has received mixed reviews from critics. While some have praised the action sequences, others have criticized the lack of character development and weak storyline. One review said that the film felt like sustaining a head injury, while another has said that Fast and Furious has become a parody of itself. Yikes! It seems like even those who were die-hard fans of the franchise at one point are now starting to lose interest. But what do the cast members have to say about this seemingly never-ending series? Well, Michelle Rodriguez, who is a staple of the Fast and Furious franchise, having portrayed the tough and no-nonsense Letty Ortiz in every installment since the beginning, voiced her opinion in a way. During an interview at the 2022 Comic-Con, a video has surfaced of Michelle's thoughts, particularly surrounding multiple sequels and remakes. How many Marvel movies can you make? Like, come on guys, at some point we gotta get innovative with this, said Michelle. Pot, meet kettle. Michelle's recent criticism of Marvel for its sequels seems pretty hypocritical. Given the sheer number of sequels and spin-offs that the Fast and Furious franchise has produced, Rodriguez's comments came during a video interview in which she expressed her frustration with the lack of originality in Hollywood and the over-reliance on sequels and comic book adaptations. Furthermore, Michelle also stated that she wishes that movies would be a little less incestuous and not only be born from one single studio. While her point is valid, it's been hard for fans to ignore the irony that she herself is part of a franchise that has produced 10 movies with potentially 2 more on the way. Furthermore, similarly to many Marvel films, the Fast and Furious franchise has been criticized for its over-the-top and increasingly unrealistic stunts and action sequences. While Rodriguez's character Letty is undoubtedly a fan favorite, it's hard to deny that the franchise has strayed far from its roots as a street racing film and has become more of an action-adventure series. Despite these criticisms, Rodriguez has been a vital part of the Fast and Furious franchise, bringing a strong female presence to the male-dominated world of car racing and action movies. Her character Letty has been through numerous ups and downs, including being presumed dead and then returning in later films. And her relationship with Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, has been a central focus of the franchise. While her criticism of Marvel may seem hypocritical, it's important to remember that Rodriguez and her fellow actors are all entitled to their opinions and have the right to express them, even when the very thing she's supposedly rallying against pays her bills. It's also important to acknowledge the role that the Fast and Furious franchise has played in perpetuating the very thing she's criticizing. So, what's the solution here? Should the Fast and Furious franchise come to a close? Or should we continue to see more movies, and possibly even a trilogy for Fast X? While it's up to the studios and filmmakers to make that decision, it's clear that fans are ready and eager for something new and fresh. Perhaps it's time for Hollywood to start focusing on creating new and original movies, instead of relying on sequels and franchises. So, fans are understandably frustrated with yet another Fast and Furious movie, especially considering Vin Diesel's recent tease about the potential trilogy. While some fans may be excited about the possibility of more movies, it's clear that the common consensus is that the franchise has become stale and repetitive. It's time for Hollywood to start taking risks and start creating innovative and exciting content, instead of relying on sucking dry every 2-decade-old concept that they own. So, what do you think? Are you excited for a potential Fast X trilogy, or are you ready for the franchise to come to a close?